7 insane facts about the countries that said no to Muslim burials. Yo, what's good, fam? Picture this. You die? You've lived a good life, paid your taxes, been a model citizen. But the country you called home for 20 years says, nah, you can't be buried here. Ship that body somewhere else. Sounds like a rejected Black Mirror episode, right? Wrong. This is happening right now in 2024, and the countries doing it will blow your mind. Hit that subscribe button and smash the bell icon, because these 7 facts are about to take you on a wild ride through the most bizarre graveyard politics you've ever heard. Trust me, fam, you're not ready for number 4. Fact 1. Japan, the country that cremates 99.97% of everyone. Alright, fam, let's start with the wildest one, Japan. So check this out. Japan has a Muslim population of about 230,000 people. That's like 0.18% of the entire country. For perspective, you're more likely to find a vending machine selling hot soup in a bathroom than bump into a Muslim in rural Japan. But here's where it gets crazy. In 2024, local governments across Japan, including Hokkaido and Oita Prefecture, straight up rejected proposals to build Muslim cemeteries. And I'm not talking about massive complexes. We're talking about small burial grounds for a community that's literally just trying to bury their dead according to their faith. Now here's the kicker that'll make your jaw drop. Japan cremates 99.97% of all dead bodies. Not 90%, not 95%, 99.97%. That's the highest cremation rate on Earth. They're basically running a nationwide barbecue for the deceased. But Islam strictly forbids cremation. Like, it's a major no-no. Muslims need to be buried in the ground, facing Mecca, ideally within 24 hours. No casket in many traditions, just a shroud in earth. So what happened when Muslim communities said, hey, can we get like a tiny piece of land to bury our people? Japanese officials were like, nah fam, environmental concerns, water table contamination, community character, not compatible with our customs. But wait, there's more. One elderly resident at a town hall meeting in Gunma Prefecture basically said what everyone was thinking but officials wouldn't say out loud. Asterisk, my ancestors are buried according to our traditions. Why should our community change to accommodate newcomers? Asterisk. And look, I'm not here to judge cultural preservation, but when you've got 230,000 people living, working, paying taxes, and dying in your country, and your response is essentially, take your corpse and go home. That's wild. Fun fact that's not so fun. There are only 3 Muslim burial grounds in all of Japan. 3. For 230,000 people. So what do Muslim families do when someone dies? 1. Pay $5,000 to $15,000 to ship bodies back to Pakistan, Indonesia, Bangladesh, countries some of these families haven't lived in for decades. 2. Reluctantly agree to cremation and carry that spiritual guilt forever. 3. Illegal burials. Yes, this has happened. 4. Just leave Japan before they die. Imagine working in a country for 30 years, and your retirement plan includes don't die here. That's bureaucratic savagery on another level. Trust me, fam. Fact 2. Switzerland, the country that banned minarets but loves diversity. Alright, let's hop over to Europe. Switzerland. You know Switzerland, right? Chocolate, watches, mountains, neutrality, Nazi gold they definitely didn't keep. All that wholesome stuff. Well, in 2009, Switzerland held a referendum, a literal nationwide vote, asking, should we ban the construction of minarets? For those who don't know, a minaret is that tower on a mosque where the call to prayer is made. It's architectural. It's religious. It's been around for like 1,400 years. The result? 57.5% of Swiss voters said yes to banning them. Not regulating them, not limiting their height, banning them entirely. At the time, Switzerland had exactly 4 minarets in the entire country. 4. And 400,000 Muslims. But Swiss voters looked at those 4 towers and said, this is a threat to our identity. Now here's where the burial thing comes in. After the minaret ban, several Swiss municipalities made it deliberately difficult to establish Muslim burial sections in cemeteries. The official reasons? Asterisk, space limitations, community objections, regulations about burial practices. Asterisk. But let's be real. If you're banning decorative towers because they threaten Swiss identity, you're probably not super enthusiastic about permanent Muslim burial grounds either. One Muslim community leader in Zurich said in a 2011 interview, asterisk, they want our labor, they want our taxes, but they don't want our mosques, our minarets, or apparently, our graves. Asterisk. Here's the comedic tragedy. Switzerland has some of the strictest citizenship laws in Europe. You can live there for 12 years, speak perfect German, French, Italian, integrate completely, and still get rejected for citizenship if your neighbors vote against you in some municipalities. So you could literally work in Switzerland your entire adult life, never get citizenship, and not be allowed to be buried there. That's not immigration policy. That's a long-term Airbnb with extra steps. Trust me, fam, the Swiss are neutral about everything except cultural change. Fact 3. Poland, where history forgot Muslims have been there for 600 years. Now let me tell you about Poland, because this one's got a plot twist. Modern Poland has about 10,000 to 30,000 Muslims. Small community. But here's what most people don't know. Muslims have been in Poland since the 14th century. I'm talking Tatars, a Turkic ethnic group that settled in Poland-Lithuania in the 1300s and 1400s. They fought in Polish armies. They were granted lands. They built wooden mosques that are still standing in places like Cremation-only. These aren't immigrants from the 2015 refugee crisis. These are families who've been Polish for longer than America has existed. So burial grounds aren't an issue, right? Wrong. After 2015, when Poland took a hard right turn on immigration, things got weird. The government under the Law and Justice Party, PiS, basically said, Poland will not accept Muslim refugees, and framed Islam as foreign and threatening. Never mind the Tatars who've been there for 600 years. Never mind the historic mosques. The narrative became, Poland is Catholic. Islam is foreign. In 2017 to 2019, several proposals for Muslim community centers with attached burial grounds in cities like Warsaw and Gdansk faced enormous bureaucratic resistance and public protests. Here's the absurd part. The same country that has maintained Tatar Muslim cemeteries for centuries suddenly acted like new Muslim burial grounds were an existential threat. It's like if America suddenly forgot about Dearborn, Michigan, and acted shocked that Muslims exist. The darkest humor? Poland has literal empty villages from population decline. Young people are leaving for Western Europe. The countryside is depopulating. You've got space. You've got historical precedent. You've got Muslim citizens who've been there since the Renaissance. But political rhetoric in the 2010s turned Muslims into convenient scapegoats for cultural anxiety, even when the actual Muslim population could fit in a small stadium. Trust me, fam, nothing says defending tradition like ignoring 600 years of actual tradition. Fact 4. Australia, where a church attack changed cemetery politics. This one's recent. All right, fam, buckle up for this one because it's recent and it's messy. April 15th, 2024. Sydney, Australia. Christ the Good Shepherd Church. A 16-year-old kid walks into a church during a service and stabs Bishop Mari Emanuel and several parishioners. The attack is live-streamed. The bishop survives, but the footage goes viral. Within hours, Australian authorities are investigating it as a religiously motivated terrorist incident. This happens less than a week after another stabbing at a Sydney shopping centre killed 6 people. That one wasn't terrorism, just a mentally ill attacker, but timing made it feel connected. The fallout was immediate. Anti-Muslim incidents increased by 300% in the following month. Mosques received threats. Women in hijabs reported harassment. Politicians started calling for immigration crackdowns. Now here's where burial grounds enter the chat. In the months following the attack, 3 separate proposals for Muslim cemetery expansions in New South Wales faced unprecedented local opposition. Town halls became shouting matches. Online petitions called them Sharia zones. One proposal in Western Sydney, which would have just expanded an existing Muslim section by like 2 acres, got 15,000 signatures against it. The dark irony? Australia has a Muslim population of about 3.2%, roughly 813,000 people. They've been there for generations. There are Australian Muslims whose families arrived in the 1800s during the gold rush. But one disturbed teenager's actions became the pretext for treating an entire community like they're applying for a suspicious building permit. Here's the part that would be funny if it wasn't tragic. The bishop who got stabbed, Bishop Marmari Emanuel, literally gave interviews after recovering saying, asterisk, "We must not let this divide us. We must show love and forgiveness." Asterisk. The victim of the attack was preaching unity, while local councils were rejecting cemetery plots. Australian Prime Minister Anthony Albanese tried to calm things down. Asterisk. We must not scapegoat communities for the actions of individuals. Asterisk. But fear doesn't listen to reason, fam. The reality. Muslim communities in Australia responded by increasing cooperation with police, condemning violence, and strengthening integration programs. The response they got: sorry, you can't expand that cemetery. Community concerns. One Muslim community leader told the Sydney Morning Herald, asterisk, "We were born here, we work here, we pay taxes here, we die here. But apparently, we're not supposed to rest here." Asterisk. Trust me, fam, nothing tests whether your country really accepts you like trying to be buried there. Fact 5. France, the country that banned burqas but can't figure out burial sections. Let's talk about France, because French secularism, laicite, creates the most complicated relationship with Muslim burial rites. France has the largest Muslim population in Western Europe, about 5.7 million people, roughly 8.8% of the population. These aren't recent immigrants. Many are third and fourth generation French citizens from former colonies like Algeria, Morocco, Tunisia. 2010, France bans face-covering veils, burqas and niqabs in public spaces. The law passes. The message: religion is private. Keep it out of public view. 2004, France bans religious symbols in public schools. Headscarves, large crosses, yarmulkes. Again, aggressive secularism. You'd think with such strict separation of religion and state, cemetery policies would be straightforward, right? Public cemeteries, everyone treated the same? Nope. French cemeteries have confessional sections, Catholic sections, Jewish sections, etc. This has existed for over a century. But when it comes to creating or expanding Muslim sections, bureaucratic nightmare. Here's a wild example. In 2015, the mayor of Chalon-sur-Saône, a city in Burgundy, proposed creating a Muslim burial section in the public cemetery to accommodate the local Muslim community. The proposal was rejected by the municipal council. The stated reason? This would create communautarism, a French term basically meaning community separatism or self-segregation. Wait, but Catholic and Jewish sections are fine. That's not communautarism? The logic pretzel. We're secular, so we can't treat religions differently. Therefore, we'll keep the existing religious sections, but not add new ones for religions we're uncomfortable with. That's not secularism. That's selective secularism. The absurd result. French Muslim families often have to bury their relatives in designated Muslim sections that are hours away from where they live. Imagine your grandmother dies in Paris, but the nearest available Muslim burial plot is in Strasbourg, 500 kilometers away. Or families pay thousands of euros to repatriate bodies to Algeria or Morocco, countries their kids have never even visited. One French Muslim told Le Monde in 2019, "My grandfather fought for France in World War II. He has a medal, but we had to bury him in Morocco because there was no space in the local Muslim section." Asterisk. Your grandfather fought Nazis for France, but France couldn't find 2 square meters for his grave. Trust me, fam. That's not just bureaucracy, that's a message. Fact 6. Denmark, the happiest country, that makes burial deliberately difficult. Denmark, the happiest country on earth, according to those happiness index rankings. Hygge, bicycles, Lego, excellent social services. Also the country that passed some of the strictest anti-immigration laws in Europe and made Muslim burial practices a political football. Denmark has about 300,000 Muslims, roughly 5% of the population. Many came as refugees or guest workers in the 1960s, 70s. They're integrated, they work, they pay into that generous welfare system everyone admires. 2018, Denmark passes a law banning face veils in public. Standard European move at this point. 2021, Denmark introduces ghetto laws targeting neighborhoods with high immigrant populations, increasing penalties for crimes committed in these areas. The burial situation. Denmark technically allows Muslim burials, but here's the catch. Danish law requires that burial plots are leased for 20 years, after which the remains can be removed to make space for new burials. Islamic tradition requires permanent graves, forever, not temporary parking for your corpse. So what happens? Muslim families have to pay for plot renewals every 20 years in perpetuity, essentially creating a death subscription service. Miss a payment? Your ancestor gets evicted. Some municipalities flat out refuse to accommodate Islamic burial practices. When Muslim communities requested sections where graves could remain permanent, local governments responded with asterisk, not compatible with Danish burial traditions. Asterisk. Here's the hypocrisy that kills me. Denmark has ancient Viking burial mounds that have been protected and undisturbed for over 1,000 years. Christian cemeteries with graves from the 1700s. But a Muslim family wanting their grandfather's grave to stay put for more than 20 years? Sorry, that's not how we do things here. One Danish Muslim community leader said in a 2022 interview, "They tell us to integrate, but when we try to establish roots, literal roots in the ground, they say we're demanding special treatment." Asterisk. The darkest humor. Denmark's happiness index rankings always cite trust, community, and belonging as key factors. Apparently, belonging has an expiration date if you're Muslim. Trust me, fam. It's hard to feel like you belong when your country treats your grandmother's grave like a rental agreement. Fact 7. Italy, where the Vatican is more welcoming than the government. Last one, fam, Italy. And this one's got an ironic twist that'll make you laugh and cry. Italy has a Muslim population of about 2.6 million, roughly 4.3% of the country. Many are from North Africa, South Asia, and Albania. They've been there for decades. Italy, home to the Vatican, the literal headquarters of the Catholic Church, you'd expect them to be pretty conservative about religious accommodation, right? Here's what happened. In the 2010s, as Muslim immigration increased, local governments across Italy started resisting requests for Muslim burial grounds. Milan, Rome, Florence, cities with significant Muslim populations, either delayed or outright denied proposals for dedicated Muslim cemeteries. The Northern League, now just the League, a right-wing political party, campaigned explicitly on preventing Muslim cemeteries, calling them the first step toward Islamization. Matteo Salvini, the party leader and former interior minister, literally said in 2016, asterisk, no mosques, no minarets, no Islamic cemeteries. Italy must remain Italy. Asterisk. Now here's the ironic twist. In 2019, a small town called Battlegrounds near Milan rejected a Muslim cemetery proposal. Where did the local Muslim community turn for help? The Catholic Church. A local Catholic priest offered to designate a section of the church's cemetery for Muslim burials. The diocese approved it. The Vatican didn't object. So you had the Catholic Church being more accommodating than the secular government. Think about that. The institution that ran the Crusades was like, yeah, sure, Muslims can be buried in our cemetery. We're all human. Meanwhile, supposedly secular local politicians were saying, absolutely not. This threatens Italian identity. The bureaucratic maze. Even when Muslim cemeteries get approved in Italy, the process takes years. Permits, environmental reviews, public consultations, which often become shouting matches, appeals. One proposal in Rome took 9 years from initial application to approval. 9 years of bureaucratic purgatory for a cemetery. The practical result. Many Italian Muslims resort to Islamic repatriation services, companies that specialize in shipping bodies back to Morocco, Tunisia, Egypt. It's a whole industry built around the fact that dying in Italy as a Muslim is logistically complicated. One Italian Muslim told La Repubblica, asterisk, I was born in Naples. I've never even been to Tunisia, where my parents are from. But when I die, apparently that's where I belong. Asterisk. The final irony, Italy's population is declining. Deaths exceed births. The country needs immigration just to maintain its workforce and tax base. But the same politicians screaming about demographic crisis and pension system collapse are the ones blocking cemetery permits for the immigrants they claim to need. You can't make this up, fam. Trust me, when the Catholic Church is more progressive than your secular government, something has gone sideways. All right, fam, let's bring it home. We just covered 7 countries, from Japan to Italy, where something as basic and universal as burying your dead becomes a political battleground when you're Muslim. The pattern is clear. 1. Countries need immigrant labor, aging populations, labor shortages, declining birth rates. 2. Immigrants come, work, pay taxes, contribute. 3. Immigrants eventually die because mortality is kind of unavoidable. 4. Governments act shocked that these immigrants want to be buried according to their faith. 5. Bureaucratic resistance, political rhetoric, community concerns. 6. The message: you can work here, but you don't belong here. What this is really about. Cemeteries aren't just burial grounds. They're statements of permanence. They say, my people lived here, died here, and will be remembered here forever. When countries refuse to allow Muslim cemeteries, they're sending a message. Your presence is temporary. Your community has no future here. You're guests, not members. The dark comedy in all this. These same countries desperately need immigration. Japan's population is shrinking so fast they're creating ghost towns. Italy can't fund pensions without immigrant tax contributions. Denmark needs workers, but they want immigration without its natural consequences: diversity, cultural accommodation, permanent communities. You can't have it both ways, fam. So here's my question for you. Drop in the comments. Do you think countries have the right to say, our culture, our rules, adapt completely or leave? Or do you think basic human dignity includes accommodating how people bury their dead? Is this about reasonable integration, or is it just discrimination with bureaucratic language? And if you made it this far, you're part of the Trust Me Fam family. Hit that subscribe button, smash the notification bell, because we're diving deep into the stories mainstream media won't touch. Share this with someone who needs to see it. Because whether you're Muslim, Christian, Buddhist, atheist, or worship the flying spaghetti monster, everyone dies, and everyone deserves dignity in death. Trust me, fam. The graveyard is where society reveals its true values. Peace out. See you in the next one.